What's going on, motorsports fans? This is Jared here with the Bearded Garagistas, back with my buddy Newman.
Howdy.
Missing Brett as always. We hope he comes back soon. Can't wait till it's the three of us sitting here chopping it up about motorsports.
Fun.
We got the podcast console back, and right before we get off to the Austrian GP this weekend, we still need to go over France and the Styrian GP. So we're caught up for this weekend's race. So we will go over that right now. All right, so let's get into, and we'll quickly go through practice and qualifying. And I know, Newman, I know you took notes on this. I only took notes on the race. So normally Brett is here for my quali and practice shindig and news and stuff like that. So it's your job now.
Hey, I got a promotion. I don't get to hold the bag anymore. I mean, the biggest things to take really out of the practice sessions was people trying to get used to the track again. Gusts of wind hitting at certain turns, mainly turn 1 and 2 there. And a lot of spinning, a lot of tire deg. And the yellow rumble strips. That was the biggest thing. Stay on the track.
And
people.
we all know how Jared feels about track limits. I think there should be
on the track,
literal dirt and sand around the edges of the track, and you should have to stay.
I like
it.
with the grass too. Not always, just doesn't have to always be gravel, but grass is good too.
You slide more with grass, so it's a little more.
I mean, ask Bottas and Russell, and I think we know that.
Horrible.
The biggest things from qualifying really was what happened with Stroll. You know, Stroll sets his hot lap, gets his time deleted, then goes to run again, but what happens? Good old Mickey boy. Schumacher hits a wall, red flags with like 11 seconds left, and that's it. Quali's done right there. Upside is Schumacher makes it into Q2 for the first time in his career. Can't keep driving though. And Stroll gets put into the bottom 5.
That's so gnarly.
Yeah. Alpine looked really good through practice and qualifying, and Yuki twerking everywhere. You know, had some fun.
So yeah, practice and quali was pretty good. I personally, I love the race. I thought it was really good, surprising for the French GP, because normally Paul Ricard sucks. It's horrible to look at, and I can't stand it. Now that I think about it, was there even a yellow flag during the French GP? I don't think there was one.
No yellows, no reds, and no DNFs. First time this season there was not a did not finish in this race.
That's unreal. That is unreal.
Yeah.
I mean, there's plenty of runoff everywhere. But
there really is over the blue and reds.
Yeah, but I don't think it's that bad.
Did you see Sainz's tire when he hit the red?
No.
There was a gash the size of my head in it.
Really?
Oh, yeah, because he hit it hard.
Damn. All right, so let's get into the races, because we got a lot of stuff to go over. So in France, Verstappen goes ahead, and he started on pole. He takes the lead into turn 1 and runs wide, catching an oversteer, and Hamilton takes the lead. And at this point, I was like, damn it, here it goes. Did you have the same feeling?
It's a Mercedes track that they're always really good at. They've never lost. I think at that point it was 3 in a row, because I think 4 would have been Styrian, but 3 in a row.
At the Red Bull Ring?
Yeah, that would have been 4 in a row, I think. But 3 in a row. So I was like, all right, they got it. They're going to do it. That's just what's going to happen. Because the problem was Perez for the Red Bull did not look good until like the end of qualifying and into the race.
Right.
He looked like something was going on. He couldn't get a hold of it. And I was like, all right, that's it. There we go. And now we're going to hear for the next 50 laps, my tires are going, my tires are going, my tires are going, fastest lap. It's what you're going to hear.
But that's not what happened, and we'll see with this race and the next race at Styrian when we talk about that, how Hamilton's starting to show a little cracking. He's making some mistakes and catching them out, and even not even just Hamilton. I think his engineers are starting to feel the pressure a little bit now that they got a team close enough to them to give them that pressure, and they're starting to crack a little bit. So we'll get back to Verstappen later, Hamilton, and we'll get back to that later. Let's go into Ricciardo, because this is a tough subject for me, because Ricciardo's my dude. But he's having a rough go at it, and I know France he looked racy. And France, and there's times where he doesn't do too bad. He's usually a place or two behind Norris. But then you got those sprinkled in little 13th place finishes, and you're like, dude, what the fuck? And I understand new team. He's getting used to it. Norris has been there for a while. He's used to the car and how everything works. I really hope to see Ricciardo next year turn into the Ricciardo that that left Renault, because his first year at Renault wasn't too great. Second year, he's getting podiums.
And you said it the other day, really much. This car, I don't think, is set up for his driving style as well as anything else. We all know Ricciardo. He is the late braking king of all Formula One. He will dive into a corner, late brake, make it past everybody through an overtake. And we don't think the McLaren car is really set up very well, because Lando is more smooth into the turns, smooth out of the turns, real quick out, where Ricciardo is fast in, and he's a little bit slower out.
Yeah, and then he's losing all that speed going on to the next, straight or wherever he's going from that. And it's really tough to watch him struggle, because you could tell he probably, I understand that they're teammates, and I also understand that they're rivals. They're the biggest rivals, or your own teammate in Formula One. And I understand that he probably sees Lando as a little bit of a rival. And I know he's not as playful with him as Sainz was, I guess. Like Sainz and Lando were just weirdly
Just
close.
follow the McLaren YouTube and you can see that.
Yeah, but I would say that Lando has probably learned a lot from Ricciardo. I think that he is picking up on things that Ricciardo does, and he's implementing it into his, and he was already good. So now that you can take stuff from who was somebody who was a contender at one point, in the right car, I think Ricciardo will make the comeback. I don't think that, not that he's, fallen behind terribly, but I hate to see him outside of the top 10 so much and struggling in qualifying so much. So I really do hope he makes a comeback. So we'll get into somebody that he battled pretty closely in France was Alonso. And he is starting to look like he's getting a little comfortable. I would say that Ocon, who got the 3-year deal, in my opinion, they probably should have waited on that. But I do think that Alonso is doing pretty well. He's starting to place better. He's starting to feel more comfortable in the car. His radio messages are more positive. Do you think that this is just a step in the right direction? Do you think this is just Alonso trying to be, the positive guy? Or do you really feel like Renault might start making a push towards McLaren Ferrari spot?
It's interesting to think that, because you would never say the words positive guy and Alonso generally in the same sentence from the stuff that you would hear. It is definitely interesting to see that Ocon gets a 3-year contract and he just keeps dropping off, which was funny because he looked so quick during practice and qualifying. I think Alonso's definitely gotten back into it. He's back in the car. He's gotten used to it again. I mean, he was driving IndyCar for a while. Didn't really do
He was all over
there,
the place.
But
he drove endurance racing too, I think.
Okay. But I think he's finally getting more comfortable and he's back into what Alpine's doing and working their way through.
Right.
And you're going to see him. I can't see him going out of the top 10 much more for the rest of the season.
Really?
I don't think so.
You're that confident?
I don't think he's. I'm not saying top 5s, but I'm saying in that 7 to 9 range. I think you'll see him there a lot the rest of the season.
I think that's a fair assumption. And we'll go to the other McLaren driver, Norris. We'll talk about him for a little bit. He's fantastic this year.
Every race up until the last one, he is pointed in every race, and he's improved his position in every race. He's never started, like if he qualified 5th, he ended 3rd. Like it was always that kind of jump up until the last one, of course. But
where did he place at the Styrian? I know we're not there yet, but
he was 5th.
Still 5th.
Yeah,
I understand he went backwards, but I mean he probably qualified a little higher than he should have. But
he only qualified higher because of the penalties.
That's true.
Yeah,
but I will say that Norris this year has been something else. I thought he was good last year, but I didn't think I was going to see this kind of jump this year. I really thought that Gasly was going to be the one to shine this year. And as much as Gasly hasn't done anything wrong per se, he's struggling because of the car. I think he's got a rookie teammate, so the teammate's not helping him too much.
He's had some bad luck, too.
And he's also had some horrible luck, and we'll talk about that when we get to the Styrian GP. But I think that 100%, I think Gasly has just got a string of bad luck, but I really thought he was going to be the one, and it's just Norris has really stepped up. And it's good to see him not take it more seriously, because I still like to see him, having a good time and doing fun things like that. But I was really impressed with how he's been doing. So let's get into the whole two-stop madness and all that garbage. So Verstappen undercuts Hamilton with a second stop. Right? It was the second stop he undercut him.
Yep.
And no, that was the first stop he undercut him, because the second stop puts him behind Bottas.
Yeah.
So the first stop he undercuts Hamilton, and the undercut at France is usually always pretty strong. The point I wanted to make was they left Perez out there forever. In this first stop.
He is like the Jedi Grandmaster of tire preservation.
But what did I say? I said that they needed somebody like Perez they can forget about and leave him out there, and the guy will just drive the shit out of the car no matter if there's tires on it or not, because it was going to they can concentrate on Verstappen and just leave Perez to do what he pleases.
Red Bull's main thing has always been they can never manage two cars. Well, it's very easy to manage a second car when you don't have to manage the second car. You just go. Here you go, Perez. Here's a set of mediums. Just have fun. Just don't hit anybody. And he's just chugging along. But
it's true.
It's like every race you always hear, we're going to go plan A plus this, plan A plus that. Now, some of the other ones you always hear, plan A plus 2, plan A plus 3, Perez, plan A plus 13. I mean, was it Barcelona where he goes, oh, tell this guy to get out of the way. No, Hamilton, you're racing him. He's in the lead.
Like blue flag.
He's been on these tires for almost 50 laps. What is going on?
Yeah, exactly. And he makes it work. But those tires didn't last either as long as they thought. And again, I do think it is because the rain they had in practice and overnight that they had. And I think that it dried out the track. I think it took the tar off the track. It made the track a little less grippy and a little more abrasive. And that's what wore the tires down a lot faster.
And it was like 113, 115 degrees on track temperature. It was so hot.
It was very hot. So it turns into a two-stop, and Red Bull pulls the trigger first. Red Bull pits Verstappen from the lead. I feel like they knew if they didn't do that, Hamilton was going to pit anyway, and it was going to put them out. So I feel like they learned their lesson from all the other races. Instead of going for the win and trying to hang on, they pit, and they planned accordingly. Whoever's doing the math over there at Red Bull, good job. 2 pats on the back. You probably should have went up on the podium to pop the champagne. But this is where Bottas pretty much has a aneurysm because Verstappen just chews him up and then ends up. Did Perez catch him at the end?
Perez did, because he podiums, so he gets third.
Right. So
you had Max, Hamilton, and Perez top 3.
Right. So you have Max, Hamilton, Perez top 3. So Bottas was 4th. Yeah. Yep. So Bottas says, why didn't you guys listen to me? I really wish I had like the recording on my car, just be like poof, and play. It was
basically, why don't you guys listen to me? Insert expletive deleted. Insert expletive deleted. No one ever
like, I knew it was going to be a fucking 2-stop. That's what he said. I'll say the expletive deleted. It depends who the guest is. Listen, if you were like a professional Formula 1 driver, I probably wouldn't curse on the show as much. But if you're not
I was just doing that for humor, honestly. Because you know me, I have no problem.
Drop that shit. But yes, so Bottas got upset. Says it was a 2-stop. Said you guys didn't listen to me this morning. This, that, and the third. And Verstappen runs him down, and then goes ahead and runs Hamilton down with 2 laps to go.
52 or 53 is when he took him over.
And it was a beautiful sight to see. The crowd went nuts in France. There must have been a lot of Orange Army out there. As you're sitting here wearing his hat, I hate you.
I have a Red Bull Max Verstappen hat. He's like my favorite driver.
So I will say that I didn't see this race coming this way. I didn't see this happening, especially with how much Perez struggled early. But I was happy to see it. And it's not the fact that I am seeing somebody else win or like Mercedes lose. I don't mind if Mercedes wins, but I want them to be challenged. Does that make sense?
I don't mind if Mercedes wins as long as it's Bottas.
All right.
No,
that's because you're a Verstappen fan. And
you want a challenging
and they're
race.
rivaling right now.
You want a challenging race because you want entertainment. The thing is, if you're just watching a team go out and win the first, say, 12 races out of 23, and it's the same one driver,
exactly,
it's already done.
Right.
It's basically already done. Now we're just going to see who's going to get second and third. We want it all to be close all the time. Like, I am a Red Bull fan, but I would like to see Mercedes step up their game so that you don't have any boring races.
Right. I would also like to see McLaren and Ferrari jump into the mix a little bit too.
They're third and fourth. They're going to fight each other.
They're too far back.
Yeah.
They're too far off the pace. And it's crazy to think with all the changes that they made to bring Mercedes that much closer to Red Bull so it could be racy, they're still that far ahead from McLaren and Ferrari. Do you feel, and this is another question I had, do you feel that McLaren will ever be competitive as a race winner with a Mercedes engine?
I think so. Especially with all the new regulations that are going to be coming in, that's going to regulate the amount of like aero time you get, the amount of this, the amount of money you spend here, the development there, and the cars start to become closer together. With these cars driving closer to close, bumper to bumper a lot more, I think there's going to be a little bit more mistakes, and there's going to be a lot more chances for someone to make it in. Because that's looking at the season, when the time you're going to see a McLaren probably make a podium is when someone else makes a mistake. You know?
Yeah, that makes sense. And that's unfortunate, but that makes sense.
At this point, yeah.
So,
and I think they'll keep moving up forward. I mean, one of the biggest things I took out of France is I think at the end of it, you're going to see Perez towards the end of the season get a 2-year extension with Red Bull. And you don't think that they would do something like that, but it makes Max a better driver when they can focus on just Max.
That's true. I can't argue with you because I think it would be a great idea for them to sign Perez to an extended contract, especially if they could lock up Max, lock up Perez, bring him in for a decent price. I think if Red Bull is smart, I think Red Bull tries to lock Max in for an extension now. I don't know how long is left on his contract, but I would say that if Verstappen this year caps it off and wins a championship, when his contract's up, you're paying him more. So why not try to sign him before the end of the season, before he would possibly wins a championship?
Yeah, I mean, the upside about it is I think it's the racer's salary are not included in those salary caps, so they can pay racers still as much as they want.
Yeah, but why would you want to pay him if you don't have to? Like, don't get me wrong, I love you as a race winner, but if you're not a champion, I'm not paying you that extra $15 million. You know what I'm saying?
One guy got $55 million.
Right, but he's a how many time champion? Yeah, all right, fuck out of here. That's my point. All right, let's get into the Styria GP.
Woohoo.
Anything from practice and quality that you needed to go over from the Styria GP?
We had a lot of track limits at turn 10, which is really funny because if you know the track, there's only 10 turns. And one of them's not even a turn because they don't have to lift off the throttle. They just go into it. But that turn right before the straight, everyone's like flying themselves out of there. You had a lot of spinning going on like normal.
Mazepin spun, even though Gunther Steiner gave him the
spin top.
Spin
that was
top.
great.
Bro, hilarious. The day Gunther Steiner or Martin Brundle leave Formula One, I will cry myself to sleep that
It's
night.
going to be boring after that a little bit. Biggest things you get is an FP2. You have the Bottas spin inside the pit lane.
Dude.
Which they were
harsh penalty, bro.
Oh, extremely harsh penalty.
I don't think it was needed.
No.
And I think there was I'm okay with a penalty, but I feel like that was like 2 penalties in one.
3 grid penalty spot and 2 points against his license.
That's too much.
And the weird thing is they were just trying something new. It was like, I think they said it was second gear. They were going to do this. And he was on a set of new tires that were cold and he just spun. And there were other things that Martin Brundle was saying that were a lot more dangerous that they used to do in pit lanes and no one got penalties for.
Bro,
yeah.
They used to do some scary shit in the pit lanes.
Oh,
but
yeah.
my thing is like, I'm okay with you giving them either. I don't think it warranted the points. I think it warranted I think a 3-pace grid penalty, if you would have given that with no points, I think it would have been okay. I don't know if points have to accompany a penalty. Is that a thing?
Depends on the penalty. I think I know we've seen Vettel get plenty of points against his license, but no penalties while driving. That man is like the king of points. I'm telling you. What, he has 7 points in the first 2 races or something this season? He had a lot.
Oh yeah, he did. I remember talking about that.
I think he got 5 or 6 of them just in the first race.
That's rough.
And then also you had Pierre Gasly's power unit go out in the second one.
Tough. Again, bad luck.
And it brings you to the point of who's got the better engine, the Mercedes or the Red Bull.
Reliability.
Honda is known for reliability, and look what happened.
Yeah, I mean, the Mercedes power unit is definitely reliable. I also think it's powerful enough. I think that they are having to adapt a car that was designed for something else, and they had to quickly adapt to it. I think Mercedes is being Mercedes. They're putting a lot of time in their 2022 car. So there's just no time to worry about this right now. And as much as I think that's why they brought Hamilton back, I think that's why they really pushed for that, because they knew Hamilton could drive a car that, that maybe not as good as it used to be and still compete for the championship. If you put 2 Bottas's in that car, I don't think it's as close a race. I think Max runs away with this. So it's all strategic. These Formula One teams are looking 2-3 years down the road. Nobody's looking, to the next race. And as much as they want to sit up there and say, oh, we're just keeping focused on the next race and we're not really thinking too far ahead, that's a bunch of bullshit in Formula One and any type of racing, to be honest with you, because they're always looking ahead. That's what they have to do. So
Brett said it best. I mean, if Bottas could put his elbows out, he would be on the podium. I mean, he's on the podium almost all the time anyways, but he'd be going for wins a lot more.
He's right.
Yeah, and so to finish up basically everything before the race, qualifying, there's like 2 main things out of qualifying. You got George Russell, Mr. Saturday again, makes it out of Q1, no problem, makes it into Q2, misses out in Q3 by 8 1/1000ths of a second by Alonso.
That's tough.
The thing is, he gets to start 11th, and there's some fun part behind that because of what happened with Tsunoda later. And, Yuki blocks Bottas, he ends up getting a penalty. So now we get to see Russell starting in the top 10 in
on
Williams,
medium tires,
on whatever tire he wants, because he gets to choose whatever he wants because technically he's out of the 10. And then you have Mr. Sir Lewis Hamilton breaking the gentleman's agreement.
Sorry, I'm going to say it.
I got to say it. I mean, he's got it. He's got the knighthood, so you throw it in there sometime. Breaking what they call the gentleman's agreement.
What gentleman's agreement? I thought that's only for rookies who. Well, all right. Listen,
I thought it was only for Mazepin.
It's for Mazepin if he spins at turn 1.
Yeah.
I think that played a lot into it, but I really do think that this is where you start to see the prissy politics come into Formula One. And the reason why I say that is, again, if they were so upset with Mazepin taking that spot and they were all this bent out of shape, they should have. The hell with a whole there's a gentleman's agreement bullshit. You should have been like, listen, guy, you're going to spin on the first turn. Don't overtake everybody and screw up everybody else's quali. That's what you say. You don't say, oh, well, there's a gentleman's agreement because 3 races, a couple races down the road, you get stuck behind a train of cars. You had a couple of bad quali laps. And now you got to get a lap in and now you're blowing past everybody because you need to catch up. My problem with that is it's not a gentleman's agreement. It's, you don't think that Mazepin deserves to go ahead and jump everybody. 1, he's in a slower car, and 2, he's probably going to crash. And I agree with you, but have the balls to say that. Don't just say, oh, it's a gentleman's agreement. Bullshit. You knew he was going to crash. You knew it was going to screw up your lap, and that's why you didn't want it to jump. But when Hamilton does it, obviously Hamilton's probably not going to crash on his lap, and, he won't hold many people up because he's got one of the faster cars, so you let him do that. I'd rather people just go ahead and call people names and get back to the old school style of racing than all this, I have sponsors and I have to be nice.
And this is the kind of track that whole gentleman's agreement would come out because it's so small. And average time is almost a minute 4, a minute 5. That over stacking up is huge, especially on that last 9 into 10 to go down the straight. You basically looked like a taxi cab, part. Everything was just sitting there waiting to go, and Hamilton's just like, you know what? I'm going to go first.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty shitty.
Yeah.
So the race gets underway. Verstappen pole.
Verstappen pole.
And it was pretty sloppy the first 2 turns. Leclerc gets bumped off the track by Gasly. When he comes back on the track, he 100% misjudges Gasly's car and takes his own wing off and flattens Gasly's rear left tire, which obviously Gasly cannot really properly drive a car, turn into a turn, anything like that. The next turn is a right-hand turn, a lot of left lean. There's no left rear tire. He ends up banging into Giovinazzi and Latifi,
and
right?
Giovinazzi hits Latifi,
and it was just it was a shit show. And then by the time Gasly got to the pits, I don't understand how the suspension broke.
I don't know how he made it there. And that's probably what it is, because if you look at that tire, it was shredded beyond belief.
Yeah.
It almost looks like he was driving the entire time on just whatever axle that was
said,
left.
Fuck it, I'm just going full bore.
He's just like, I gotta get back, you know? It was definitely a hard thing to watch.
Yeah, because he had the problem in quali. He had the issue in quali with the engine, and then he comes into the race, and he's looking pretty good. You know, he's looking like Gasly does, and then another issue, and it's brutal. And Leclerc did not have a clean race, as much as Leclerc won driver of the day.
He won driver of the day because he went from 13th of his own setting all the way back up to, I think he finished 7th. Yes.
Yeah. All right. Then don't get me wrong, fabulous drive back, but have to pit to change your wing on the first lap, cause yourself to have to drop those places. And if you know, I'm a Leclerc fan, so for me to be tough on him, it hurts me a little bit, but I got to do it. I got to do it, you know, because he clipped off Raikkonen's front wing, and Raikkonen, that was partially his fault as well, because he came over as well. It wasn't a one-sided thing. But even Leclerc's passes, man, he wasn't messing around. If you were in his way, he might try to bump you off a little bit. And I don't mind Leclerc driving like that. I think Formula One driving needs a little of that, right? Bring that over from IndyCar a little bit. But yeah, I mean, Leclerc did not have a good race.
He had a good recovery.
He had a good recovery.
I don't know if I'll call it a good race, but he had a good recovery. I got to say, though, with the wing change and the tire change, he definitely gave a lot of data to everybody else to figure out how the rest of the race was going.
Oh,
he was a very good guinea pig. And it seems like Ferrari does that a lot. They make these changes early in races, and everyone can go, okay, so what happened?
Yeah. Well,
he's still alive?
He's still alive? Poke him with a stick. So Gasly's out because his suspension pretty much snaps on his way back to the pits. Mm-hmm. And I was really proud to see Norris play the long game with Perez, letting him by at I can't remember which turn now, but they were on different strategies. Norris knows that the Red Bull is faster. He knows he's fighting for third place in the Constructors' Championship, and he made a veteran move, I think, by letting Perez go, you know?
Oh, yeah, most definitely. He said in post-race and pre-interview, like, we don't have the pace to keep up with them, so we gotta run what we gotta run. And that's the perfect way to make sure that you keep picking up points, considering, unfortunately, your partner finished in 13th.
Well, that happens.
Yeah.
And that's why we were talking about Ricciardo in the French GP, because he needs that consistency back and needs to feel more comfortable in the car.
And I think we should look at the other DNF. Unfortunately, it hurts me so much.
I don't want to talk about it.
It hurts so much.
I don't want to talk about it.
You don't want to talk about it?
I mean, we have to talk about it, but I don't want to talk about it.
If anybody else out there is listening and also feels bad for George Russell, I think we should we should create a support group. We are the George Russell boys. Every time he gets screwed over by something that is completely not his fault. I mean, the perfect situation to finally score his first points in a Williams car. He gets 11th, gets his own tire choice, Sonoda gets a penalty, so he gets to go up into the top 10, starts running 8th on his own strategy that he gets to pick, and pneumatic pressure in the side pod. And I was listening to other people talk about like pneumatic pressure. You can top that off as the race goes on.
That's what they try to do in the first stop.
It can take 30 to 40 seconds every time you top it off, and it's not something that you can top off once. It's at least 2 times.
Yeah.
So I think at that point,
they topped it off in the first stop, then he did another lap and came back in, and that's when they retired him. And at the point of retirement, he was in P8. And it was and they were there on pace. They were there on pace because he was only a couple of 1,000th off P10. And he moved up to P8 in the first couple laps, being with, race maneuvers. I'm like, fuck, dude. I was so upset with that. Watching him retire was brutal.
I was sitting at home and I yelled, "Fuck!" And Mom goes, "Who crashed?" I go, No. A heartbreaking moment. No, not a crash.
That's so crazy. And then I wrote down Hamilton's mistakes. He went wide and got a little squirrely, dipped his rear tire into the gravel, and he couldn't really make any headway on Verstappen. And I think that he's starting to feel the pressure. Do I think that he's going to crumble? No. I mean, it's Lewis Hamilton. He's a how many times 7-time world champion, going for 8. I think he's going to make a good run out of it. I think he'll win a couple more races by the end of the season for sure. I don't think by any means Verstappen's going to run away with this. Just based on strategy, always having both Mercedes up in the front, reliability as the season goes on. I really do think that Hamilton's going to be in there at the end. But you're starting to see those mistakes. You're starting to see the chink in the armor.
If he can turn it around and start to get up there again, do you think we actually have a chance of making it to all the way to like Yas Marina, where
last race of the season?
Or is this going to be one of those that will probably be decided 7 races before or 5 races before the end? Do you think it can make it all the way to the end?
I think the next 3 races here are pivotal. And I'm very big on momentum. I said earlier in the season I thought there was a couple of must-win races for Red Bull, that some they won, some they didn't. Maybe it's my hockey background, I don't know, but momentum makes a difference. So I think if, with Mercedes now, the whole talk about them, obviously Max Verstappen wins this one as well.
4 in a row.
4 in a row for Honda engines. Was pretty impressive. First time 4 in a row wins since 2013, I think.
Mercedes has not
Red Bull
lost 4 races in a row in the hybrid era, which
right.
is, I think, 2013. Yeah.
Yeah, so this is the first 4 in a row for Red Bull since 2013, the first 4 in a row for a Honda engine since 1991. And I think that as impressive as that is, I don't think it's over just yet. I do think Hamilton I think he has to, let's say he has to win, but I think he at least has to be in second and maybe pull 1 win at least out of the next 3 races. He has to keep it close enough to where if Red Bull's reliability comes into play, where Red Bull, the engine breaks down or he starts having any Verstappen issues, Hamilton has to be there to pounce on that.
Yeah, I don't see him doing it this coming weekend, but maybe the weekend after, because that's when we're going into Silverstone.
For sure.
That's a couple weeks out. That's the next race after Austria.
Some high speed turns in that. That should definitely play a little more into Mercedes' hand.
Isn't the pit lane named after him now?
Yes, it is.
So, there you go.
It doesn't mean he's going to win it.
I mean, come on. It's like home field advantage for the guy.
That's true.
So I had actually another question for you. Do you think that the slow pit stop for Perez is what caused him to finish behind Bottas?
100%.
100%?
100%.
Oh, yeah.
How do you can't have a slow on rear left tire have a 6-second stop from a team that normally has a 1.8 stop? Because you got to understand, when they're pitting their drivers, they're doing that calculation. All right, he's going to take this amount of time to get around the track. It's going to take this amount of time for him to get down the pit lane. If we can pump out a 2-second pit stop or a 2.2 pit stop and slower and him get back out, he'll be good if Bottas runs this. That's how they calculate all these pit stops. When you do a 6-second pit stop, that fucks all that shit up, throws it right out the window. Nobody has any idea where you're going to come out. I mean, they do if they did the calculation, but by the time they've punched those numbers, there's nothing you can do. 1, 2, it's over. You're out of the pit lane and Bottas is already past you. So that was a brutal stop. And that doesn't happen often, from Red Bull at least. Red Bull's one of the fastest teams and they make some of the least amount of mistakes. Where you look at somebody like Mercedes, who bitches about pit stops and are slow and still make mistakes. Like when they messed with Russell, they couldn't get the nut off the car, this, that, and the third.
Yep.
What, I was going to ask you a question. Do you feel that the issue with the pit stop thing was a Mercedes fault? And if you want to introduce everybody who's listening, if they haven't heard,
are we talking about how they're trying to minimize the time? Okay.
They're trying to add a minimum time to certain parts of the pit stop.
And it's all they're trying to look at each like wheel gun has a setup to a certain computer, and it says like this is when it's good, this is when that's good. Each part has like a sensor, and what they're trying to do now is like you could change it, but it won't tell you that you're good now to go until a certain minimum amount of time. Now, do I think this is everyone else going, hey, we can't get a 1.8 or a 1.9 because Red Bull consistently.
Everybody or Mercedes?
I want to say everybody, even though I want to say Mercedes.
It's Mercedes.
Like, it's Mercedes.
Nobody else gives a fuck.
I'm trying not to seem extremely against them all the time.
Call a spade a spade. Call a spade a spade. Mercedes cannot match the pit stops at Red Bull. They cannot match the reliability of the pit stops at Red Bull. And therefore, even with a 6-second stop with Perez every once in a blue moon, that was a Mercedes thing. And Toto's bullshit about being like, well, I raised the question about something else and the FIA put it together. Dude, you planted the seed and watched it grow like an evil freaking genius.
What I can't understand is why they want to do this. It literally is part of your strategy. Can your pit people do what they need to do?
Yeah.
They need to do what they're able to do. That's part of the strategy of Formula One. Can I get a sub 2? Can I at least get a 2.5 or 2.7 and below? Taking out that ability will hinder some teams, mainly only Red Bull, because they're the only ones that can do that.
Yeah.
Which they're crazy for being able to always consistently.
But you think about it, that is a lot of time on the track. That is. Think about this. They run a 1.8. Mercedes does a 2.4. That's 6 tenths. Yep. That's 6 tenths. How long does it take to make up 6 tenths on the racetrack in a lap? Do you make up 6 tenths on a lap? No, very rarely, unless you got really good tires and the person in front of you is either really slow or has really old tires.
Perez finished behind Bottas, I think 4 tenths off.
So there you go. And 6 seconds was his pit stop. So if his pit stop was 4 seconds faster, he'd have been good.
Yep.
It wouldn't even have been close. I had Leclerc fights back. George Russell's brutal happening. All right, let's cap this off. Verstappen's burnout.
I loved it.
I loved it too, and I'm not even a Verstappen fan. And I normally would probably say that's showing off, but you know what? I think their first 4 in a row. I think Verstappen making a statement. I think it was to rattle Lewis a little bit. I think it was to play all those games. And I thought it was perfect. And again, I'll say it a million times. People being nice for sponsors and people always keeping that vision up of how they want to represent their company. I think it takes a little bit out for some of the fans. And maybe that's an American thing, right? Maybe the European fans love the, that everybody's all high and mighty and all polite. But I like to see that passion. I like to see that battle. I want to see the anger and the red in somebody's eyes, and I want to see them talk smack, bounce each other off the track. Some of the best battles between, Senna and Prost, they were coming together, bouncing each other and trying to take each other out. Like, people used to crash on purpose and knock somebody else out of the race so they can win the race on points. You know what I'm saying? Like, win the championship on points. That's the stuff I want to see. So if an underdog in a race who is becoming an alpha dog, who is taking it to the 7-time world champion, who is taking it to a team that hasn't lost in the hybrid era in the last year of this car generation. If he wants to do a burnout across the line, fucking let him run him.
He wouldn't be doing that if he wasn't at least 35. He was 35 seconds ahead of Hamilton. If it was any closer than that, I think he wouldn't have done it. But the fact that he was so far ahead of him,
he was able to make a point.
He made a point. Exactly.
I thought it was a great point to make.
I thought it was great too. The thing that killed me was, smart move by Mercedes. They pit Hamilton on lap 70.
Get the extra point.
So he got the extra point for the fastest lap. And I was just like, oh man, that would have been nice. I'm not greedy. I promise.
Do you have anything else to add? Because I am done.
Well, let me throw one last thing at you. So
okay.
We're going into Austria. It is the same exact track, but we're going on to softer compounds of tires.
Okay.
What is your prediction? Who do you think? What does your podium look like?
My podium for this one goes on a softer set of tires.
Which we always know Mercedes does not do as well on a softer set of tires.
Right. Let's go. Let's get crazy with it. Let's go Perez, Verstappen. I know they'd never let it happen. Perez, Verstappen, Hamilton.
Okay.
I don't think that's going to happen, though, because if Perez was out front and Hamilton and Verstappen is anywhere close to him, they're going to swap because they're going to want to get Verstappen the points to take it to Hamilton in the championship.
Honestly, even if it wasn't that, I think Verstappen's pace is better than Sergio. He'd probably pass him anyways.
Well, on softer tires. As much as Max is really good, Perez's tire control is really, really good. So that's the only reason why I was like, hey, maybe Perez could eke one out here and win based on speed because he can take care of his tires a little longer than maybe Max could. My realistic approach to this would probably look a little more like Verstappen. I think Hamilton still makes it into second. And I think Perez finishes the podium again.
So I went a little bit crazier than you.
Oh.
Not as extremely crazy, but I have Verstappen 1, Perez 2, Norris 3.
You think?
I think we saw those mistakes that that Hamilton was making. I think on a softer set of compounds, and he gets a little bit squirrelier out there, he might mess up something on his tires. Maybe have to throw an extra pit in, or the pit might go a little bit later because he might bend something. I think there's going to be something that goes wrong if he can't keep his car completely on the track the whole time. And I think Norris will be able to eke his way in there. I'm sorry to say that I'm not throwing Bottas in the middle of any of this, but I think the same thing. But I think Norris has a good shot if something happens and there's no rain, because it's supposed to rain, but every time we always say it's supposed to rain, it's usually sunny.
Yeah.
Welcome to not being in Florida. I think that might be happening.
All right. I mean, take that to the bank. You got Verstappen, Perez, Norris podium from Newman, and I think a realistic podium is probably going to be Verstappen, Hamilton, Perez again. I think it's the same podium again. So we'll see how this goes,
and the Red Bulls keep running,
and the Red Bull keep running. We'll see you guys later. Peace.
Peace.